We want to be known by our quality, our brand, our well-being. It's very important for us, for our people to be healthy and happy.
The step that we've taken now is where we become a 5x in growth in the next 5 years.
Close to 25% of our global workforce is based in South Asia. 450,000 people.
We got to be able to choose a quick win or a silver bullet that solves most of our problems.
We need talent across this region. And can we make assets that are something that would be replicable across the world?
We can't wait forever to make that leap.
Now is our time to sort of be in the top 5, top 10 Deloitte firms in the world.
South Asia is a region brimming with optimism. Its large population, technology adoption, and interconnectedness to the world are some of the reasons behind this. And in the studio with us today are two business leaders from professional services firm Deloitte. They are Romal Shetty, who is Chief Executive of Deloitte in South Asia, and Channa Manoharan, who is Country Managing Partner for Deloitte in Sri Lanka and the Maldives. And they are here to talk about the region, its challenges and opportunities, and how all this relates to Sri Lanka. Let me start with you, Romal, right? South Asia is seeing an exciting time. I think several of the economies in the region are growing at a rapid clip, and you're from India, you're in the forefront of that growth and positive outlook. What does this say about the future of South Asia versus where we come from, you think?
Yeah. So if you look at, and you're right, pretty much, if you look at globally today, most economies are either flat or downward. South Asia is probably the only, what I would call as the beacon of hope, where it's actually doing pretty well. And there are a couple of reasons which are, I think, fundamental. First is the demographic dividend in terms of the young population that we actually have. The second bit is, when I look at South Asia itself, there is an opportunity for a significant amount of improvement in everything that we do, whether it's in governance, whether it's in business, as we become world-class companies, right? I think there is clearly an area of improvement there. Third is, I've been a big proponent of South Asia trade. There are 1.8 billion people in this region. If we just start trading between each other, then we can look at markets not just in Sri Lanka and Bangladesh and Mauritius, wherever we are, but much beyond that. So there is clearly a market stage as well. Fourth is the advent of digital has actually transformed economies, transformed people's lives as well. And that will help us leapfrog. We don't need to go through the different cycles that Western economies have grown. So in that sense, great talent, very young talent, opportunity for improvement, which is always great, and a scope for much larger economic trade-off. So I think it's really the best time probably in our generation to be in South Asia.
Channa, I'll bring you in. Sri Lanka's story over the last 5 years has been a little different to what South Asia has experienced. But there's this sense of optimism about the country coming into a higher growth path because we've sort of tackled some of the issues that held us back in terms of productivity, right? As we look at the future, should we be looking at certain principles around which we are going to build our growth? Romal alluded to some that he thought applied to South Asia in general. Apply that to Sri Lanka.
Well, if you look at what we can do, in terms of potential, we have never had doubt about it. Is how do you realize our potential? And one thing that really kind of stopped us achieving our potential is the fact that we are very good at self-imploding, right? And with the potential to realization, there has been a huge gap. And one of the reasons why that the realization gap is there is I think boils down to governance.
All right.
Right. And every time we whether it's in cricket, whether it's in business, whether it's in the economy, right, the common thread is that if you have the right governance in place and the enabling framework for that, then I think we will achieve what we have the right potential to achieve. So if you take cricket in 1996, right, we had a very professional management. We had the right talent, and we had a board which believed that we can be world beaters, right? And then in combination, we won the 1996 World Cup. If you look at now, I think we have a similar environment. We have the opportunity to kind of leapfrog, primarily because I think the government is forced and also is committed to basically bring the right environment for growth, which is getting the governance platform right. So whether it is anti-corruption, whether it is the deregulation, the empowering the institutions like the central bank to be independent. So that will be the strong base that we need to create that, the rocket for growth is going to be the governance framework. On that, if you really achieve that governance, the independence of the institutions, whether it is the judicial system, the regulators, right, and all that coupled with what Romal mentioned, right, the secret sauce for growth would be in being bold. And I totally agree that we don't have to go through every cycle that other economies went through. We can learn from the South Asia experience. We've seen, we don't have to go far for reference. We've seen how India has kind of transformed its economy through digital enablement, the digital economy piece. So I think if you look at the budget and the policy side of things that have been announced recently, we are on the same track. It's just that we have to make sure that we stay the course and achieve that, so that we don't have a gap between vision and realization of potential.
If I could just add, it's a beautiful thing about the Sri Lankan cricket team, right? 1996, and one of the things was, of course, a really bunch of talented people, great leadership, all of that. But it was the innovation. The innovation in the first 10 overs that they really went hammer and tongs at everybody else. In some sense, there wasn't the 1990s earlier great patch had started, but really Sri Lanka took it to the next level. And if you look at any major corporation in the world, and we've studied over 30 years data, it says really three things. You should have one, which is a very unique idea, something that is not easy to replicate, copy, right? Second is it has to be technology enabled. And third, it has to have scale. So if you really, and the first one is really about innovation. So, sometimes size means that you're faster. You're more agile when you're smaller. When you're probably very big, you don't move that fast. So Sri Lanka has that opportunity because it's already shown that. You look at some of the global technology leaders, they're from Sri Lankan origin. So nothing prevents Sri Lanka from actually going that extra mile and being that innovative, being that bold, and doing something at scale, not necessarily only for Sri Lanka's market, but global markets.
Right. So the two of you are painting the picture in one sense about the South Asian opportunity, Romal, and Channa about the Sri Lankan opportunity. Romal sort of finishing your sentences there by sort of helping almost sort of highlight the fact that, hey, being small is an advantage right now, right? So Romal, as a leader, you have to take stock and figure how is this going to feed into a strategy that you will build for Deloitte in South Asia. And Deloitte is a large organization already in South Asia, right? How does this help influence your strategy? What is your strategy for South Asia?
Yeah, so I have 3 or 4 things as part of my strategy, that we want to be a brand. We want to be known by our quality, our brand, right? Our well-being is very important for us, for our people to be healthy and happy, and of course scale. Because at the end of it, Deloitte's a $65 billion company. It's a large company. It's been 175 years. South Asia is $1 billion. But I think now is our time to sort of be in the top 5, top 10 Deloitte firms in the world, and we are on track for that. So this is when I talk about, and I just talked only about South Asia for that minute because you are specifically referring. But South Asia is going to be in Deloitte's today, close to 25% of our global workforce is based in South Asia. 450,000 people, close to 25 people. But in the next 3 years, 5 years, we will be 30% of Deloitte's global workforce. What does that mean? It means that we are working with the best of the global corporations, trying to solve the biggest issues in those corporations as well as in governments, trying to solve some of the biggest challenges that they're facing. So for us, it's now an opportunity. It's no more about South Asia for South Asia only, but South Asia for the world, where this talent, this incredible talent, is working to solve the biggest challenges. So that's the big opportunity I look at. Second is, we want to move from $1 billion to a $2 billion firm in the next 4 years, which is a fair clip. which is a fair clip. And for that, we need talent across this region. The talent could be in digital, could be in cloud, could be in cyber, could be in AI. And can we make assets that are something that would be replicable across the world, that the rest of the Deloitte firms use? In the past, we've traditionally looked to the West to make these assets, and we use that. But now the focus is how do we build world-class assets from here that everybody else in the world can use.
That's remarkable. You're talking about a $65 billion company. South Asia is $1 billion, but you already have 25% of Deloitte's workforce in India and in South Asia, right? Demystify for that. Help us sort of figure this out. How come this is so disproportionate? You indicated what kind of skills they are bringing to the table. If you sort of break it up for us, Romal, what exactly are we doing in South Asia? What exactly are you doing in South Asia that requires such hard?
Yeah, so there are two parts of our South Asia firm. So there are about 27,000 people who service just the local markets and the local companies. And we have our global firm, which has about another 85,000 people, right, which service the global markets as well. So this is a joint thing which we have with the global firm to serve rest of the world and serve our own markets as well. Now we are focusing on really 2 or 3 fundamental things. A lot to do with tech. I think that is clearly one area because I think the world is getting digitized. Generative AI is coming in. So the first generative AI center of excellence, the first ESG center of excellence, those are all based out of South Asia. So we are really focusing on some of those big ticket items. The second is our own economies. Our own economies are now, India is already the 4th largest economy in the world. Right? It touched 4 trillion yesterday. Right. So we pretty much, I think we will be on track to be the 3rd largest economy. Bangladesh is again improving significantly. Sri Lanka is on that path, for example, today. And I really look at the fact and when we look at a view, we don't look at a 1-year view, 2-year view. We look at a 5-6 year view. And then going forward, Sri Lanka makes it very attractive for us to work in this economy, to help the government, to help companies here become world class, but also for the fact that this talent, how do we use it elsewhere? Right? Whether it is in terms of technology, whether it is in terms of accounting, I think there are some great skills. But also, like I said, how do you help the country? I mean, how do you help the country becoming much more digitally savvy? For example, in tourism, can we do that to ensure that there is more inflow of tourists into the country? And these are things that we can solve. We have solved across the world. So for me, that is, Channa and me always speak about one thing called make an impact that matters, or touching the lives of people. The good part about what we do is some of that can really touch people's lives because you can bring in intervention that can actually be frugal, yet innovative and very cost efficient as well.
So Channa, you're leading teams in Sri Lanka and the Maldives, and you're in this environment where Romal's talking about making assets out of Sri Lanka that can serve the firm globally and your global clients, right? So you're trying to create IP out of this region, right? How do you craft a strategy for Sri Lanka and the Maldives within this context?
I mean, it's a no-brainer for me, Shamindra, because, we don't have to go far, number one, right? We have South Asia and we have India. Number one. Number two, it's not as if Sri Lanka is not doing this already, right? So if you look at the product engineering skill sets that we have in Sri Lanka, right? If you look at our companies who are basically producing world-class technology and innovation products in Sri Lanka, right? It's not as if we are not doing it, right? So the thing that we want to do is to scale this, take this to a different level, right? And also, if you look at it, one of our great traits is the resilience factor, number one. Number two is the fact that we have always punched above our weight class, right? And also, if you look at our ingenuity of our talent, right? We've been with Slascom and we know our brand is Island of Ingenuity. We believe in solving problems and bring our ingenuity to the table. And we have world-class organizations being innovated by Sri Lankan talent in Sri Lanka, right? Not migrating out, right? So our vision is, be part of the global innovation story, build IP, learn from what's happening out there. We cannot be kind of isolated from the world. We need to kind of embrace collaboration, embrace change, and learn from the bigger economies and the more innovative economies, And having Romal and team and the strength from South Asia, I mean, that's a great strength for us, right? And that's number one. Number two is that, I mean, Romal mentioned that, look, where is growth going to come from, right? And that's going to be from India, South Asia, and also from China. So I think we got to align and ride that growth wave as we come out of our own problems, as we kind of recover and then, again kind of grow. We need to integrate with the global supply chain and the global markets. I think we can be a great force in terms of crafting that story and supporting our companies, governments, to kind of, propel the growth for the country.
Your partnership with Romal and Deloitte South Asia is kind of new, but I'm sure you've had some time to sort of reflect and see, okay, what's the culture, what's the vibe, what's the tone at the top, right? What are your initial impressions, John?
I think the whole attitude of thinking big and going after what we want to go after, and not to kind of have excuses as a culture, right? So that's number one. Other is the collaboration culture and saying, hey, I want to collaborate with you and to kind of go to market together. Third one is self-belief, that we can make a difference and we can create the impact that matters in the lives of our people, and also doing all that in a fun culture. And that's important. The happiness, I mean, Romal, one of the few first things he has done that I heard was that he appointed a chief happiness officer in the firm, and then believes in, women leadership and supporting inclusiveness in that growth. I think all that kind of, makes it aligned to the way we want to be kind of growing and providing that global opportunities for our talent to work and do interesting things and retain the talent in Sri Lanka. So high-paying, highly innovative jobs and doing interesting things whilst remaining in Sri Lanka and contribute to the growth of Sri Lanka.
And just to add, because it's a very important question in terms of culture. When I think Channa and we met and sort of this combination really happened, it was very, very like-minded culture in terms of very high on integrity, high on ethics, right? And two things that always stood out for me was one, and all the partners that I speak to in Sri Lanka, that we should do something for the country, we should do something for a community. And I think that is a very important and responsible thing that I look at in South Asia. We need to do a lot more, right? I think that was the second one. And third one was this: we will achieve great things, but we've got to achieve it with a little bit of fun. And to be a more kind, humane, and happy firm is very important. And these are not two different things.
So you're also talking about the challenge we have in the region, Romal. Poverty is fairly high in this region. Female workforce participation is low across the region, including in Sri Lanka. It's very low in Sri Lanka. We also have challenges with governance, etc., that are fairly common across this region. As an organization that has a disproportionately large workforce in this region, how do you sensitize, or how do you form a connection between the environment and what you want to achieve as a firm? Can you ignore this? And then if you can't ignore it, how does one craft something meaningful for society, for the economy, for people in this context?
You cannot ignore it, but can you be a part of it and try to start making changes within yourself? So for example, today we have a program called Deloitte Heartland. Heartland is all about going into the heartland of our societies and picking up people. When we talk diversity, is not only about the gender, it's also about financial strata. Can we give the opportunities to 200 to 500 kids, right? Everything from education to finally reaching jobs. We do it for girl children today. So can we do something like that? Or for example, when COVID struck and we had a massive challenge, we built virtual healthcare platforms so that everybody with a simple mobile phone could access that and take their treatment and not necessarily come to the primary healthcare center, really creating trouble. So in our own way, how can you do different things in the community to start doing it? And when you do something like this, our clients also observe. Our clients also want to do. And when we solve a lot of climate change issues, it's much more wider impact than just that particular client. It follows three layers down as well. So we believe in leading by example. So we've got to make the example, got to make that investment, got to make some of those things. Not everything will give you money, not everything will give you return, but I think in the long term, doing all of that is also good business.
How does one craft a strategy around Sri Lanka, Channa? You talked about one of our preeminent challenges, which is around governance, and perhaps one that we've only begun to sort of address. But when you step back and look at all the other challenges that Sri Lanka faces, not necessarily in the business sector, but in general, how does one who's leading a team here, try to sort of address or bring some of that back, in terms of ESG, etc., into your strategy?
I think, we kind of embraced ESG. We embraced being ethical citizens, responsible citizens. It's nothing new. We've been doing it. And I think we kind of want to do it, for example, in terms of net zero. If you look at it, the firm has been committed. We are committed to achieving net zero, right? We changed the tone. We had to set the tone at the top. So we had to lead by example. We have done that. And we kind of invested in kind of sensitizing our people, best practices in terms of how we do business, how we source, how do we kind of engage with our suppliers. So I think it all begins at the top and how we kind of set the stage for it. And also learn from what others are doing. We have some world-class organizations who are our own clients. We have learned from them in terms of how do you approach it in a challenging environment. But as Romal said, you got to, Shamindra, invest for the future. It's not all about profit. It's profit with purpose. So I think that combination is what, end of the day, will give yield results for us. And also, like it or not, if you're not sensitive towards ESG, you won't have clients. That's business reality. Also, people won't join us, right? So the talent, the best of talent, want to be responsible citizens. And that's a reality. And organizations that deliver that will be attracting the best talent as well. So I think it's good for business and good for the planet. Right? And then that's where we got to head towards. And that's what we made good headway. Deloitte has some fantastic examples as to how we can implement it. So we don't have to kind of start anew as a Sri Lankan organization. And also, if you take Maldives, it's more important in terms of environment, in terms of, global warming and what. So I think our firm is committed to doing what is right and supporting government and communities as well.
Yeah, and sometimes, also you spoke about, and we talk a lot about digital, but the influence that digital has on governance is profound. So if a lot of what the government does and private sector corporations do digitize different parts, it removes a lot of bad behavior or other things as well. So that is the other thing that we've seen, and we've seen it in India as well. A lot of ease of doing business has improved because it's now a lot more is digitized, and that's something that we can do. And when we talk about AI, to give you an example, let's assume aircrafts land and they don't have a landing gate. Just 2 airports in the United States, and they were like an aircraft company. That would save 1 million gallons of oil just by putting it at the right gate at the right time, just by putting an algorithm. So that also translates into environment, right? You're saving less fuel, renewables, which in this area we're blessed. We're blessed in this area with sunshine, with wind, with a lot of things which are not there elsewhere, right? Go to some of the European countries, you're always gloomy. You're figuring out when is the sun going to come out. At least that's not the case with us, right? So it's also about how do you leverage what you have and not really focus on only what someone else has done.
Romal, there's a reality in this region of poverty, of poor governance, etc. And sometimes, and you as a business, as an organization, you have commitment to ESG goals, but you also consult to a lot of businesses, and they face a reality of poor shareholder wealth maximization. How does one sort of try to strike a balance? Because you are influential, not just within the organization, but also how you influence your clients, how you advise your clients. How do you sort of strike a balance in this region for businesses to be more self-aware about the environment in which they operate?
I think the awareness is significant. When I look at 5-10 years back, I see the awareness is significant. Now is the question of actually moving the next step to actually doing things,
Right.
and it's a 2-3 prongs process. One is sometimes government mandates, because when you have reporting, for example, and people are seeing you want to take credit from someone, but you're not an ESG compliant or you're low on that ESG score, your loans would take a higher thing. So one is government mandates and things like that. Second is, how do you look at ESG itself to ensure that your business becomes more sustainable? So today, if you supply steel, you supply something into Europe, if it is not ESG compliant, they will not take steel from you. So automatically, that is also an important part. Uh, Third is really that the purpose, the story of purpose. Channa spoke about purpose. Purpose is very important. Why do you come to office every day? Is it just okay because you have to just do things, or you really want to change the world? And I think that purpose is now slowly being picked on by different corporations. We do that impassioned plea all the time when we are working, and in whatever work we do. I mean, I'll give you an example, because you'll understand. In most of South Asia, I mean, at least in India, for example, I'll give you the example, which is, if a money lender gives money in tier 3, tier 4 cities, it's normally a 24 to 36% rate of interest 1 year. Whereas privileged people like me would get it at 8%. So what we've done is, now we've built a platform with the non-banking financial services companies, because the big banks don't go there sometimes. The non-banking financial service company, to say, using a lot of AI without collaterals, because they don't have collaterals, they don't have a house, they don't have their own house, they don't have a car, they don't have anything. With whatever information is available, can you still give credit to people, right, for their business perspective, with whatever information that they have? And what we've realized is, if you give loan to a lady at 1% lower interest rates also, it is more profitable than men, because delinquency ratio in women is far lower. So even by doing some of these projects, just our countries are actually a country of entrepreneurs, but they don't have access to credit. If you give access to credit at reasonable rates, we're not still able to give at 8%, the privileged me that gets it. You're able to give it at 11, 12%. But 11, 12% is still better than 24, 30. And those money lenders are sharks, actually. All right, you will physically be harmed as well. So that is what we're also doing in our projects, to see if we can make that happen, the country will do. Or we work for a large state in India called Uttar Pradesh, where we are helping them to move from a 240 billion to a $1 trillion economy. Now, some of the advantages of this is 50% of UP is agriculture, 50%. If you increase just increase the productivity, and we've seen that the productivity norms are not as good as many other places. If you increase the productivity norm by 15-20% itself, a lot of people would come out of poverty levels. So those are the nation building or other things that we as a firm can make a tremendous impact in Sri Lanka, in anywhere else.
Channa, in this context, apply this to the case of Sri Lanka and the business that you're leading. How do you think you'll have to sort of transform or change how you approach business from what you have done in the past to sort of fit into a grand scheme of way of thinking, a grand strategy, if at all?
I think Romal partnered with us because he thought we had that grand scheme of things in our DNA, right? But jokes apart, Shamindra, it's a simple thing. We want to make a difference, and we want to create that impact that matters, right? So how do you do that? Okay. So and also in Sri Lanka, as you know, you've been a journalist for long enough. You will know that we have to seize the moment when it occurs, right? So for us, as a country, we got to do that, and as a firm, we got to do that, and that's what we did with Deloitte. We kind of decided to seize the moment of becoming the number one professional services firm in the world, and along with that comes the responsibility to support Sri Lanka in seizing that moment. I think we have this wonderful period where we have to do the right thing. Right, and do the right thing by our country, by our people, by the economy, and also the future generations. Right. So, Romal asked about the question today. We had a Exco meeting, and the question was, what is it that you guys want to leave behind? And then the legacy that we want to leave behind is that in our generation, we want to see Sri Lanka achieve that potential. And what can we do as an organization, as a firm, as Deloitte, is to help our clients seize the moment, be bold, make the changes that is required, right? Think beyond 22 million people population, right? Think global. Bring efficiencies and best practices that they need to kind of generate value to their shareholders and also to reinvest in growing. That's number one. Number two, how do you give opportunities for our talent? I mean, at the moment, everything looks greener on the other side. And how do you bring self-belief to our talent? And I'm saying, I told my people, look, the step that we're taken now is where we become a 5x in growth in the next 5 years. It's an ambitious plan, but not something that we can't achieve. And we think by supporting our governments do the right thing, whether in terms of doing the governance piece right, strengthening the institutions, unlocking value in state-owned enterprises. Deregulation brings up loads of opportunities for Sri Lanka to become competitive. How do you support that? And we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We have South Asia which has done that before. And how do you kind of learn from those lessons and then bring that to Sri Lanka to achieve that? So I think those are the things that we need to basically kind of A, emulate, B, bring the Sri Lankanism to that. So we are not saying plug in everything from elsewhere. Learn, execute the Sri Lankan way, right? See collaboration, bring Sri Lankan uniqueness to the solution. So that's the grand vision, right? And basically, if you ask me, we have talent, we have the talent, we have the capability, right? We need the vision and we have to be bold. So when people ask me, why was it, that we kind of joined the Deloitte, and I said, look, if not now, when, is a question, number one. And we want to bring the Deloitte's eminence as the number one firm with a multi-competency, both in terms of depth and breadth. And if you look at us as a firm in Sri Lanka, in scale, right? How do you achieve scale? So this has never been done before, right? So basically, we almost double in size overnight, right? We had 28 partners, 45 associate directors and directors, and you need to have scale to make impact. You need to have vision and execution capability to make that impact. Third is basically you need the right partner with the right vision and attitude and a collaboration mindset to create an impact. In that we have South Asia and Romal supporting that. So I think we are confident and we are absolutely bullish. I think that's something that we both agree. I mean, we are bullish about Sri Lanka. And we want to be basically taking that optimism and the capabilities and the competencies to government as well as our clients and also the communities that we want to support.
Romal, I was intrigued by your reference to your work with the state of Uttar Pradesh and how you're helping craft a strategy and how 50% of people in that state are farmers, right? You also talked about digitalization, right? And we've generally been discussing here the challenges around governance that this region has. Can you try to talk to us if there's a link between these things? Can we improve governance at state or national level, and what role can digitalization play in such a scenario?
So I'll give you two examples, right? So if you look at milk. Now, milk is done by very small farmers all over the place, right? Just by bringing in a digital or an Uberization, where they collect all the milk together, have much better volumes, and have much better what I call as purchasing power, in this selling power, negotiation power, to sell it to people, and also have a nice from a perishable perspective, into a micro fridge kind of a thing. Just bringing all this together in a nice way, in terms of, and tech can help you. It can't help you by just doing it all physically. So that's the first thing, right? So how digital can help in both reducing perishability. They used to have 30-40% perishability of milk, right? That is dramatically reduced. And because you're all now at scale and you're able to sell, you're able to command a better price also, right? That's the first one. Second, coming to governance, another example, as Deloitte, we digitized India's parliament, right? This is the only parliament in the world to be fully digitized. Now, what does that mean? It's nice, obviously, to be digitized and everything is in a workflow and all. But what it means is, as common citizens, you can see your MP, member of parliament, where have they spent the money, what projects have they spent the money, how much money is still pending,
Wow.
right? So you're getting a lot more transparency. You can go and hear that your MP has stood up for what issues. Today you hear whatever, somebody may say it, sometimes it comes in the newspapers, but now you have a record to go there. And we are creating the next phase. We're trying to create a metaverse where you can sit inside the parliament, that is, and hear what is happening without being in the parliament, both for parliamentarians and otherwise. Now, all of this, when people are able to see, improves transparency, improves governance, right? I'm giving you just a few examples, but the whole thing around, for example, our payments. I mean, I've always believed in India was, we used to have the mobile phone, which really made a big revolution. But then you got the roads, then you got the electricity, and now you got digital payments. These four things added together have just increased dramatically trade and transparency. So, those are some of the things that I believe is relevant in every other economy. And there are things that we can learn from as well. Not that, we have to learn from, we know everything. There are many things that we can learn from as well.
I'm intrigued, but about your project digitalizing the parliament, right? So does that mean a citizen can log in to a website and
Yes.
see the track record of their representative?
Yes. Yes.
They can see the voting record. They can see the
Yes.
legislative record of that individual.
That's the whole idea.
Wow. And this is already working.
This is already working. It's like there are phases in terms of different things coming in. So initially, all the workflows, the bill, the votes, for example, all of that is happening. All of the speeches from 1940s, 1900s, all of that have been digitized. So they can also search what has happened. So all of that is already being done.
This is very refreshing to be having this conversation with the CEO of a consulting firm. Channa, you seem to be very passionate about this issue again in the Sri Lankan context. And if you thought there were early opportunities for Sri Lanka through digitalization to improve governance, where do you think those opportunities would come from?
I mean, there are so many things that can be done, but I think we got to be able to choose that kind of the quick win or the silver bullet that, solves most of our problems. And we don't have much time. We can't wait forever to kind of make that leap. And I think the solution that the government has already recognized it, but has been slow to implement it. That's the digital ID project. Is equivalent to the Aadhaar project in India. Right, I think if you look at the World Bank statistics about India, it says the Aadhaar project technically helped India achieve its digital inclusiveness in 4 years, what would have taken 45 years. Right, that's the power of digitization. So I think Sri Lanka government has recognized it, Shamendra, but we've been poor at execution for various reasons. So if we typically look at implementing that, and I understand if you look at the budget, the digital economy strategy, or what the government has proposed and what the president has articulated, I think that's one of the very low-hanging fruits. And if you do that, I mean, the problems that we have on the fiscal side, in terms of traceability, identity of the citizens, widening the tax net, because it kind of helps you trace transactions, and so the income tax base that we have, which is extremely low, and therefore we are burdening the entire population through indirect taxes. All that can be solved if we kind of start on the digital ID project, and if done correctly, it takes only 12 months to solve. That's number one. And bulk of the base work has been done. We need somebody, a sponsor in government who makes this the priority and make it happen. Number two, it brings in a lot of accountability in terms of everyone, right? So you can trace who has bought an apartment, who has bought a house, who has bought vehicles, all that. And then that brings transparency, right? Where is the money flow? And then in terms of tracing, how did you earn that money? And how do you then kind of, bring you into the tax bracket? So it's a simple thing that can be done. And then every transaction thereafter, there is a traceability. Number two, we have some of the payments, we have, social benefit schemes. All that At the moment, there is significant leakage, is what I read. And it is highly possible that people who should be given those benefits are not actually receiving those. So this helps you to actually identify the person who deserves it, and then to make impact that really matters into the transferring cash benefits to them. Even our what do you call the fertilizer subsidies? I mean, the right farmer has to get it. Not everybody who has money and not have money get fertilizer. At the moment, everybody can get fertilizer subsidies. So I think it brings loads of efficiency, transparency through this digital ID project. And I think if there's one thing that we got to pick, that will be my first preference. Do that. And I mean, the reference points are very easy. You just cross and go to India and see the transformation that it helped enable. And that is a strong foundation for thereafter the private sector innovation to come into play. Use that as a base to kind of have open, APIs, and then you build, open it up, and you build stuff on top of that. So I think it's a matter of government having the will, the legislation, bringing the kind of the intergovernmental cooperation to do that, and do that in an inclusive way. So if you look at every sector at the moment, if you talk about it, when it comes to trade, the single window. When it goes to ports, when you go to agriculture, digital is required. So the common thread in every problem that we have, the solution has a digital element to it. But you need a foundation of data. And that's where we think the digital ID will kind of bring that whole, it'll kind of help us leapfrog rather than trying to do this manually. And I'm hopeful, and I think that all the chambers, we are all unified in one thing to say, implement this project on a priority basis and allocate resources on a priority basis. If we get that done, I think that will be the easiest and the quick win that we can have.
Yeah, the other bit also, Channa, if I can add, from a Sri Lanka perspective, is also skilling to really see, what are the big mega trends in the world, right? Whether it's on AI, generative AI, for example, whether it's on cyber, today, can we invest in a few of those as a country? Because then you create massive opportunities, and then you create opportunities beyond your market, right? So what are those 4, 5, of course, environment, ESG as well, ESG science, right? Science-based techniques and others. Are there 3 or 4 things as a country that we'd like to create? Because that could really help us as well. And these are things that will come a little bit naturally to South Asians.
So one thing, Romal, is that in the encouraging part is that in the budget, they allocated funds to create an AI agency. So that's, at least from a policy intent perspective, that's clear. I think now what we can help and do, and the president's call has been in the last budget presentation, he wanted private sector to step up and help government. So we are hoping, and we are seeing that, the engaging private sector more, and that's kind of the positive aspect of what we are seeing at the moment. So I think the investing for now would be the digital ID, investment for the future would be in the AI side of things. So I think, there's a lot we can kind of do in that space.
So this conversation has been very unconventionally refreshing to be having with 2 CEOs. In closing, Channa, Romal, any last thoughts you want to leave behind?
No, I just think, I'm really excited because I think Sri Lanka is such a beautiful country. Second is, just having, Channa and team with us, I think is really a blessing. I think we're really happy because it's a fantastic bunch of people, fantastic, absolutely fantastic bunch. Third is, I genuinely believe that this team, and us, when I say this team, we together, I think can really make an impact on our societies and make people's life better.
Yeah, that's the dream. Make Sri Lanka a powerful economy and have its worthy place in the global stage. That's a dream, and I'm confident we can contribute in some small way to achieve that.
Gentlemen, thank you. Channa, Manoharan, Romal Shetty, it's been a pleasure.